weekend of violence in a Democrat-led city. According to the NYPD, 25 people were shot in New York City over the weekend, with at least 4 being fatal.
In Bushwick, a man was shot in the head and killed, and in Canarsie, a man was gunned down. The NYPD has reallocated officers to have more on shift during the weekend, especially in the summer months. But the commissioner says lawmakers need to do their part to protect New Yorkers.
We can keep New York City extremely safe. We can do very amazing things with the resources that we have. What we can't do is, with the resources that we have and a system that continues to let criminals back on the streets, and then keep New York City as safe as we need. We need help on the legislative side.
And it wasn't just gun violence. 3 people were stabbed last night in the Bronx. 2 of the victims died. Many of those violent crimes overnight happened in Brooklyn. There, city leaders, state lawmakers, and Congress members joined the community in rallies demanding an end to the violence across the city.
With the rise in crime and the way the pandemic was handled, it's no wonder why the city is facing a mass exodus. Join me now from our bureau in New York City, Manhattan Republican Party Chair Andrea Catsimatidis.
Thanks for having me.
So what's it like being a New Yorker right now? We've seen the surge in crime. We've seen, I would argue, that the governor is making the pandemic as difficult as possible for business owners. Why would anyone want to stay?
Unfortunately, New York City has really turned into a war zone, and it's not just propaganda that people are hearing in the media. This is actually happening. Real people are being shot. Real people are being killed. Children are being shot in the streets. I live in a previously very safe neighborhood, and I know you've probably seen in the news that just a few blocks from my house, somebody was almost raped in broad daylight. Knife point robberies and stabbings are a regular occurrence, and this is all in broad daylight, something that as a New Yorker I am not used to, and it's very scary to even leave the house. And of course you have all of the austere measures from COVID.
Yeah, we have video of the crime that you're talking about. Roll tape.
Happened at 11 a.m. at the East 63rd Street Lexington Avenue station. How clear is that picture? A 25-year-old woman was waiting for the Q train when the man pictured pushed her onto the ground. He climbed on top of her, stopped when a crowd of people formed. The victim suffered only minor physical injuries and refused medical attention.
AJ, you have to ask, where's the outrage? Where are the leftists that are, we support women and women's rights and this and that, when there's rapes, attempted rapes happening in broad daylight?
Absolutely, and it's something that I have really tried to voice as chair of the Manhattan Republican Party and as a woman, that not supporting the police is really an attack on women, because women have really been victimized by the lack of police in our city. And it's really scary for us to be on the street. And unfortunately, all of these wealthy people can hire private security. Mayor de Blasio has an uptick in security, but they wanted to fund the police. So if it's not safe enough for them, why is it safe enough for us? And I'm concerned about New Yorkers. Safety is for everyone and not just for those who can afford it.
Yeah, the whole defund police effort, aside from just cutting the budgets, which I would argue that they need more money, not less in New York City, it really does hurt minority communities. It hurts women. It hurts poor people the most. Because as you pointed out, for the wealthier, it's easier for them to get up and move and go to the suburbs or move to another state. Moving is very expensive, and not everyone is afforded that luxury.
Absolutely. And as Governor Cuomo even said, that 1% of residents of New York City pay 50% of the taxes. And all of those people are highly mobile and they're moving out of New York City. So New York City is going to have a tough time paying for basic programs that residents really need, and also for silly art projects like Mayor de Blasio's project in front of Trump Tower.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit more about the coronavirus restrictions, the arbitrary rules. Your family owns several businesses, and I'm sure you're friends with many business owners. What are they telling you? Are a lot of the business owners, are they going to be able to reopen?
You know, it's really tough to operate both between the crime and the COVID restrictions. So a lot of businesses you see around the city are boarded up because they're afraid of being looted. But even worse are the COVID restrictions. We're lucky because our businesses are required businesses, their grocery stores, so we've been able to stay open. But a lot of businesses can't operate. Gyms have been delayed from opening. A lot of places can only operate at 25% capacity. So it's really difficult for businesses to stay open. Also, Mayor de Blasio has said indoor dining is not going to be available till at least 2021. So restaurants are really, really hurting. It's a very tough time.
Yeah, the essential businesses, they're staying afloat. Obviously, many of them had to make so many changes because of COVID. But I've talked to several business owners in New York who say, okay, we've been closed down for a while. We thought we were just going to wait for them to flatten the curve, and then we were going to be able to reopen. That hasn't happened yet. So a lot of people fear whether or not they're going to have a business in a few months from now because they pretty much ran out of all of their resources. There's not a ton of government help, not a ton of leadership from Cuomo. You hear from the media, they say, oh, he's doing such a great job. But I would argue that he's not.
I don't think he's doing a good job at all. I mean, after everything has been shut down, you'd think that the Democrats would want to provide some relief to small businesses now. Small businesses create over 50% of jobs in this country. So now more than ever, we need to be helping them out to help them to rebuild so that people can have jobs after the pandemic. And we're really not seeing that. And the looting and the crime does not help that at all. Our supermarkets were actually looted and vandalized, and we've been trying to feed people. So it's been a nightmare to operate, and most people can't even operate.
So I didn't even know about that. When did that happen?
That happened maybe a month ago. One of our stores was vandalized. The windows were broken and looted, and this happened all over the city. These were not isolated incidents, which is very scary as a resident. I actually saw people looting right outside my window. There were people with sledgehammers. It was terrifying as a New Yorker.
Yeah, I bet. It's just terrible to see what's happening. And I read an article from the New York Post who was saying that New York needs a younger version of Rudy Giuliani to come in and fight the crime again. Well, AJ, we're going to have to leave it here. Thank you.